Welcome to this video on 5 tips for setting up your online workouts. My name is Tyler Valencia, and I'm the president of KIPS and Time to Train Fitness, as well as your Balancely ambassador. In this video, we're going to be going over beginner tips that hopefully if you're looking into getting online, adding online into your business, into what you're offering out there, whether you're a personal trainer, group fitness instructor, wellness coach, health coach, whatever that might be, that you have these tips to help you create better content. That's one of the big things with content nowadays. You want it to be the best quality. You want to make sure you're not just throwing stuff up there. So let's use these 5 tips to help you create better content and hopefully attract more clients. Tip number 1, and something rather basic, is make sure that your phone, your iPad, most likely your camera's already in 4K, but make sure those devices are in 4K when you're recording. If you are thinking about throwing stuff up on YouTube, or even if you know that your clients are watching this on a bigger screen, 4K is going to come across so much better. It's going to look better. It's going to look crisper. And if you are editing them, and hopefully you are, that when you edit them, you can have so many more options with zooms, with cuts, with anything that you want to do with it. You just have more options. So in your device, you can go into the settings and swap out the settings to make sure that it's on 4K. If you are on an iPhone or an iPad, it might say 30 frames per second or 60 FPS. I personally think that 30 FPS is more than enough for the overwhelming majority of people out there that are going to be recording online workouts. Tip number 2, and this one still has to do with iPhone or iPads or potentially an Android. I'll admit that I don't know much about Android phones, but put your phone on a do not disturb mode. I can't tell you, and I'm sure that even live instructors that teach group fitness or in a class, they know this, and most likely they already have this one already set. But if you don't put your phone in some type of do not disturb mode, there's a high chance that somebody's going to call you and that's going to just completely ruin your workout. So I personally, I have an iPhone, and what I did was create a setting just to make sure that nobody can get through. That I went through, I made it so that nobody, that not even on my favorites list, they can't contact me, text messages, anything like that, that from this time period to this time period, it's on. Because if you don't adjust any of the settings, what can happen is if you put it on do disturb, somebody on your favorites list, or potentially somebody that calls multiple times, and these days, telemarketers, they know this, and they will call multiple times to get through those types of things, and you're sitting there thinking, how do they get through my do not disturb? They will call multiple times to try to break through those things. So create or make sure you utilize a do not disturb mode. Now getting into the filming process. First 2 were about setup, but do a sound check. If you are recording content, I always think about how can I make sure that when I'm in front of the camera and I'm not thinking about how do I sound and making sure that my sound's coming through because you didn't check it. Take the time to set all your stuff up, hit record, and then listen back to it. If you're using an iPhone or an iPad and you got it on your tripod, most likely you have to come back and unplug any devices that you have into it to listen back to it. But take that time. If you are using an interface, if you're using a mixer, then you'll be able to adjust those. Maybe you need to increase the gain. Maybe you need to adjust something on there to boost up your voice or decrease the music, whatever that might be. Take the time to do a sound check. Tip number 4, and this one, it can also be knocked out at the same time as the sound check, is check your framing. By framing, I mean, what is, side by side, top and bottom, where are those limits to make sure that when you film something, that you're in frame, that it looks good. You wouldn't want to be tilted too far down, too far up. And the number one thing that I've talked about in other tutorials with Balancely is that most likely, it's the top. Sometimes people give themselves too much at the top right there, that they don't know where that top is, and yet they're doing exercises where you had so much space, and adjusting it down just a little bit would make it look a lot better. So with your sound check, make sure you set up your frame in terms of where the camera is, where it's positioned. You can make sure it's balanced, all those types of things, but take that time. Do that little thing, check off sound check off your framing, make sure that you move around, do some of the sample exercises, and make sure that all looks good. And now the last one, and this is right before pressing record. It's pretty basic, but take a deep breath. relax. When you go on camera, you want to be yourself. That's one of the biggest things that I work with instructors when we're filming content is be yourself. Make sure that you're using your personality. You're joking. If that's the type of person you have, but be yourself, because these days, whenever you're creating content, being yourself is one of the biggest keys. People want to know more about you. They want to see how you act. They want to know all these things that are about you, and showing it through the camera is one of the biggest things. So take a deep breath, relax, and be yourself. Just let it flow. Just like when you're teaching in person, if you are a personal trainer, group exercise instructor, that you just let it flow out and you relax. That has been it for these tips for filming online workouts. If you're already filming content and you already haven't, if you know there's a good tip out there, throw in the comments. Help other instructors out there that are filming content, trying to grow their client base. Let them in on your secrets. But that has been it for this. I hope that's been helpful. And make sure to check out all the great content on this YouTube channel that hopefully helps instructors like yourself trying to grow your business and trying to grow online or in person. That's been it. I'll see you next time.